If you have not heard, and I can't remember off the top of my head if it's been fully released yet or if it's still in beta with certain groups, but Copilot 2.0. So this is Microsoft's basically generative AI model. It's still a little confusing whether it's totally ingrained with OpenAI's GPT or if it's kind of now their own unique blend. That still isn't super clear to me on this. But the point is that Microsoft has their own generative AI model that is now being fully integrated into the Office 365 suite. Specifically, the business suite is where I see most people talking about it. Um, and essentially, what this does is it essentially allows you to have this fully integrated large language model to help automate all sorts of things, like help make my PowerPoints, help me draft this email, help me do this and that. And so I was watching a video of it this week of all the different functionality. And of course, it was a bit of an ad, but this was done by, someone who doesn't work for Microsoft. So they had a little bit more of an objective view on it. But as they were describing this, some of the examples, I'll run you through some of the examples that I was watching them do. Now, one of them was, for their Excel and the ability to just look at these massive data files of all this stuff. And with the power of their Copilot, you can just ask whatever you want and it'll sort the data. It'll find the insights from the data. It'll lay it all out in a visual format that makes it nice for you. You don't have to go deal with other people to make that happen for you. And it can even write Python code so that you can actually, do even more dynamic stuff with this stuff. And leading up to all that, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I can see where this would be super helpful. But then it was like the catch at the end where the way it was positioned was now with all this functionality, you'll no longer have a need for data analysts because you can do it all yourself. And I get really, really, really nervous when I hear AI products marketed this way. Now, again, this wasn't coming directly from Microsoft, but I did happen to go out and I saw some stuff coming from Microsoft that had a similar, maybe not quite so overt, basically kind of positioning this as what do you need other people for? Our AI will take care of all this for you. And so then it showed another example of PowerPoint and how you could go into PowerPoint and you could just basically give it all the data and then say, now make me a deck that summarizes all of this stuff. And it creates this perfect, beautiful deck that you don't even need to do anything with. And it's so wonderful. And again, kind of positioning this as, who needs help when you can have AI in the power of your hands. And as I was watching this, I understand the flair of could this be super helpful to people? Yes. As I talk with business leaders, though, where I think this marketing is misleading and concerning is that it gives the impression that AI will take care of everything for you. And so you won't really need the help of anyone, which unfortunately, no, not unfortunately, I guess fortunately, that's not actually how work happens at work. So let's just break this down because to anybody who's listening to this, who may be running a business or in a senior leadership position going, oh, sweet, we have Copilot. So are you saying that we probably don't need to have a analytics team anymore because now we've got Copilot, it'll just take care of it for us? And if you're in that line of thinking, I would ask you to pull the reins back a bit, hit the brakes, because if you start going down this path, you're going to make some serious mistakes that are going to be very hard to untangle on the other side. And so let's just unpack some of these examples using real world data around this. So I've been heavily involved in people analytics and data analytics for quite some time. And, yes, are there always frustrations in an organization that said business stakeholder wants certain reports or wants certain things, and the analytics team can't deliver at the speed in which they want, and they get frustrated, and it creates this tension between the silos. And said business group goes, I just wish we could do this ourselves. It'd just be so much easier if we did this ourselves. And as a result, a lot of times what happens, said business organization goes out and hires their own analytics person and starts building their own analytics team to compensate for the gaps that the existing analytics team. And it becomes big and expensive and people go, wow, this is such a waste. Why are we doing all this? And this is the kind of marketing that then Copilot 2.0 can capitalize on and go, isn't that so messy? Wouldn't it be great if you just had an AI bot that could do it for you? In theory, yes. In practice, though, it does not work this way. As somebody who has worked with said business leaders on a lot of these things where they go, I just need this report. What is often missing from that is the context of what do you need that report for? And are you aware of these other factors that may be influencing these? Like, if you truly have an analytics team that is nothing more than pencil pushers, that literally is just you send message, they send you report, you send message, they send report, then potentially could something like Copilot help? Sure. Unfortunately, I've never been in an organization where that's actually how things work, at least not if they're working well. Because the way an analytics team should be set up is said business leader says, I need this report. Analytics team says, help me understand what you're trying to get out of that report. What do you think that report is going to tell you? This leads to a deeper discussion of said business leader is struggling with these issues and is trying to find these data points to validate whether they can improve on this. Analytics team goes, I hear what you're saying. Here's some of the challenges why what you think you're looking for might not get you what you need. What if we did something like this? And what if we factored these things in? Might that better help you make a decision? Okay, that's super productive. That actually gets you to a better result. It doesn't get you to a better result if said business leader goes, I want report. Now I'm just going to ask AI instead of analytics team. I get report. I make decision based on my own interpretation of this with zero understanding of all the other contextual data components. And now I make a decision. When it blows up, I get upset, but I don't even know how to solve it now because AI just gave me what I wanted. And this is the kind of stuff in some of the advisory work I'm doing that is happening in spades as people are starting to implement and become over dependent on AI, thinking, I already know everything. I just need someone to execute it. And the reality is, you don't know everything, which is why AI can be very dangerous to your business. Now, are there instances where, yes, maybe just this specific report you need and the backlog of the analytics team because they're working on deeper things is really frustrating? And so, yes, generative AI helping you quick do an analysis on these numbers might be helpful. Sure. And that's where I think Copilot 2.0, these tools, they're fantastic and can be a great augmentation because no company can afford to have an analytics team with the size it would need to meet everyone's needs. And that's where AI can come in and help with some of this lower caliber, just robotic, like, I just need this. I just need this data reformatted this way. I just need to isolate this variable in here, which before you'd go pay way too much money for one of your top analytics people to be like, you want me to run an Excel report for you? This isn't a good use of my time. Great. That use case, fantastic. The use case of I'm trying to do a business analysis of our last 3 years of data to identify trends and figure out where the market's moving and what things we've done that we've made mistakes. That's not something you want to go to Copilot for and just throw at a giant Excel database and go, give me the answer. And like I said, people are doing this left and right. Now, you may say, okay, well, that's an extreme example, but PowerPoint, obviously, that would be a piece of cake to use Copilot for. I would say not necessarily, because once again, let's use the example of said business leader, executive leader needs to give a presentation on some initiative. Okay, historically, the way it would work, executive would go to said team and say, hey, I need you to put together some slides on this initiative and get them back to me so that I can do the report out. If your business currently is structured where executive says, nobody asks any questions, somebody sends a bunch of finished slides back to said executive goes and presents whatever their interpretation of that is, okay, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And in that instance, then yes, Copilot 2 might be great, but it's just great at making a big mess. How it should work would be business leader goes to their team they know that's working on it and says, I need to give a presentation on this. Can you pull together some slides on this? But I also need you to help me understand what this is and what are the key points and what are the things you need to make sure I highlight so I don't misrepresent this thing, so that I don't go promise the board that this is happening. And then you go, you said what? Why would you tell them that? And that's what happens when said business leader goes, you know what? I don't need to tell my team. I don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to ask Copilot to look at this SharePoint document repository and pull together the top slides and format it for me. It doesn't have any context and it will lead to disaster. So, am I excited about where Copilot 2.0 is? Yes. Do I think it's extremely powerful and is going to solve a lot of really important problems for a lot of organizations? Yes, as do a lot of the large AI models. Do I think people are going to and already are making a lot of massive mistakes that are going to cost them millions, if not billions of dollars in the long run because they think this is the easy button? I already know it's happening. And I've already been called in to help clean up some of these messes after the damage has been done. And I can tell you it's costing exponentially more in time, money, resources than had they just done it right the first time. So just be careful with this stuff. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty integrated. If you haven't toyed around with it, if you have it in your organization, I'd highly encourage you to, because I know there's lots of times where you're doing this stuff and you're doing it very manually, and this can be super helpful, but with caution.